Thunderbolts is the 37th entry in the MCU. It comes to us by way of Jake Schreier and stars Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, David Harbour, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Louis Pullman, so many people. This is the continuation of the MCU. It is the first kind of major release we're getting in this new phase, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, Brave New World was also a part of that, but, you know, not enough people saw that, nor did that push the needle in either way. You guys already know my thoughts on that film by this point. Thunderbolts is a movie that I was pretty excited for. I thought the marketing, while very corny and ham-fisted and kind of desperate, is a direction that I wanted to see the MCU go in. I want them to start trying. I want them to do something different. I want them to move in a direction that feels unique and original. And with this movie, it felt like a genuine attempt to do that. Now, was that a shallow, money-hungry attempt? Most likely, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't going to produce interesting results, which it did. Thunderbolts is easily the most noteworthy MCU film since Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I felt that this film really made a point of carving out its own distinct place within the comic book movie world. And it succeeds in what it's setting out to do. This film introduces a bunch of characters or really reintroduces a bunch of characters that have been kind of casted aside, put in stuff that people think is forgettable, boring, bland, whatever you may call it, and they're recontextualizing them to be interesting protagonists. We get to see Yelena from Black Widow, which I thought was the best part of that film. We get to see Wyatt Russell's character from the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. We get to see Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's all of these, thrown away characters that we were really not meant to care too much about in the first place, and they're put into situations to make them more likable. This film does a really great job of building chemistry between these very different characters and making it believable that they would work well as a team. They have a lot of chemistry together. They riff off of each other really well. I thought the performances were some of the best we've seen in a really long time in an MCU film. I thought Louis Pullman was fantastic as Bob. I don't want to delve too much into his character. I'm sure you've seen enough of it in the trailer footage and all that, but the very specifics of his character and the way he's dealt with mental illness, with addiction, with all of these, different elements that feel a little too far out of reach for the MCU in terms of themes and subtext. He felt like a genuine attempt at covering those issues and humanizing them. Everything having to do with Bob's character felt like it came from a place of understanding. It came from a place of empathy. It was never pointing the finger. It was never villainizing him for those reasons. It was just painting an honest portrait and almost lending a sympathetic hand. Florence Pugh is also fantastic. I thought she was easily the best part of the Black Widow film, and to see her get to shine in much more of a leading role, she really gets to come into her own here. Obviously, she was a side character in Black Widow, so she didn't get as much screen time, but here you really get to see what makes her character tick. You get to see more into her backstory. You get to see all of these different elements that make Yelena, her character, so much more interesting and so much more fun to follow than even Black Widow was herself. I loved the way she played off of the Red Guardian, David Harbour's character. He was way funnier in this film than he ever has been. I think in any of his mediums, this might be my favorite performance of his. And I felt that the relationship dynamic between him and Florence Pugh was something that really emotionally anchored the rest of the film. The action sequences are framed and shot really well here. I thought that Jake Schreier was the absolute right visual voice here. You can tell that he cared about the composition and choreography and stunt coordination of each action sequence and each set piece. They were very thrilling. They fit the tone of the film perfectly. I thought that not many MCU films go for different types of action based on the characters that are within the movie, and I think that Thunderbolts breaks that trend really well and lets the characters play in situations that genuinely suit their strengths. We also get a lot of creative stuff with set design, especially towards the end. There's a lot of elements with Bob's character that I really don't want to spoil, that I really ended up loving. I think he's one of my favorite antagonistic performances in any MCU film. There's a lot to really latch onto here. Thunderbolts is a great course correction. It's getting the Marvel Cinematic Universe back on track. It's not a perfect movie. I found a lot of issues with Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. I feel like she was not a great villain here. I felt like she was phoning it in a little bit. I think Sebastian Stan was kind of phoning it in here. I felt that, well, yes, a lot of elements of this felt like an indie film, like what Florence Pugh and all of the, corny marketing was hinting at. But other moments felt a little bog standard. They felt a little homogenous. They fell in line with what we're coming to expect from the MCU. So it wasn't 100% reaching that goal of being this distinct and different and absolutely new direction for the MCU, but it did enough, and it did enough to make itself stand out from the pack, to make it stick in your mind a little bit more. This is easily the most memorable superhero film we've gotten in a really long time, and it's breaking that streak of superhero fatigue that many people, audiences and critics alike, are really suffering from. It's the kind of film that Marvel and comic book movies in general really needed. It's something to get people interested again, it's something to get people talking again, and it's something to start a new conversation. It doesn't all quite come together in the end, but that doesn't necessarily matter if it ends up reaching that goal. I ended up having a really fun time with Thunderbolts. It was funny in a lot of places, it was very thrilling, it was touching, it will tug at your heartstrings, especially towards the end. It was creative. So much of this movie felt like an absolute breath of fresh air, and for all of its faults, I am going to very much commend it just because it is something that this franchise has desperately needed for a really long time now. I'm going to give Thunderbolts a 3.5 out of 5. Definitely, one of the better surprises of the year, and hopefully is a good sign for things to come with Fantastic Four. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. If you like what you see here, please subscribe, like, especially comment. I really want to know your thoughts on Thunderbolts. Did you think it is the course correction for the MCU that I thought it was, or was it another letdown for you? Please let me know down below. And other than that, I will see you with the next review. Thank you so much.